today. Welcome to Living Life with Geraldine. Thank you for coming to my channel. Please don't forget to subscribe. Well, what am I going to do today? First off, I like to talk about something about my mom. A lot of people speaks on when one of their loved ones passed away. And I have heard that over the years, and I do feel for them. But to lose my mom, man, it really hit home with me. It's bad. It's the worst. I feel bad because I don't have a lot of friends, and I don't have my family is not large. So my mother, I knew her all my life, and she's like one of the friends that I ever had that I know for so long. So I do miss her, and I'm quite sure those who lost their mothers know how I feel. People don't realize how special a relationship could be when you have your mother. A lot of kids don't look at it nowadays, where everyone's in foster care and everyone coming to New York for a better life. They leaving family. They just destroy with greed and money the whole concept of family to me, because, my kids don't feel the same way I do as far as parenting is concerned and being a mom and family values. I feel the United States need to take a chill pill and reanalyze things, especially when it comes down to family. One of the things I like to talk about before I get into what the subject is about today, I like to talk about when my mother had passed away. Not only she passed, but her husband passed a couple of months before her, several months before her, about 4 months before her. And my mother, she contracted Parkinson disease. And wow, Parkinson disease. I mean, it blew me away when I found out that my mother had Parkinson disease. I never knew any black person in my community, in my neighborhood, of my family, friends of friends. I never heard of any black person contracting Parkinson disease. I'm talking about me. I never heard of anyone contracting Parkinson disease. And how did she get it? My mother, she never really went out. She never really, well, I'm gonna tell you one thing she didn't do. She didn't go out to dinner, but she did eat a lot. Not a lot, but she did eat in the Chinese restaurants in the neighborhood. She's so Brooklyn. My mother was Brooklyn. She just stood in Brooklyn. When I moved to the Bronx, I think that was the furthest she ever traveled. When she came to see my apartment in the Bronx. She's from a different era, and she loved Brooklyn. She'd been in Brooklyn all her life. My whole family has. And she brought her home in Brooklyn. And my mother, she met her husband. He's from Montserrat. He's a black man, but he's from Montserrat. And when he came into our family lives, I was about 14 or 15 years old. About 14, maybe 15 years old. And I didn't know much about Caribbean people because I grew up in an all-black neighborhood. And I never knew anything about Caribbean people. My family, my parents, they were married. My father and my mother, they were married. And they never talked to me and my sister. I have one sister. They never talked to us about immigrants or foreigners. Or they never talked to us about slavery. I don't know why my parents didn't speak to my sister and I about those topics, but they never talked to us about it. Maybe they just wanted us to grow up normal and think that the world is ours to conquer it. And, they didn't want us to, I don't know, maybe feel sad or hear about bad things, But anyway, my mother, getting back to the topic that I was talking about, my mother, she took sick. And when she took sick, she didn't know what was going on with her. Because her balance was like a little like trembling, and a little unsteady, and then she found out she had Parkinson disease, and well, it blew my mind. It blew her mind. I couldn't even pronounce it when she first told me about it. But anyway, she started losing her balance, and I had a tape on her when I took her out for her birthday. It was this is 2020. It had to be in 2019 or 2000. I think it was 2019. I took my mother out for her birthday. I took her to the Barclays Center to go see a concert. And what happened is my mother, I have a video clip of her sliding down the steps. That's how she was coming down the steps to open up the door to the house. And I videotaped her. And I got so many of my personal possessions stolen from me. I hope I can find that clip when my mom was sliding down the steps and I was taking her out for her birthday. And she came to meet me at the door. Because, you know, you got to go down the steps to get out of her house or to get into her house. And I stays downstairs by the door. Because I'm not invited in my mother's house because of her husband. And when I come into the house, he bicker, you know, this is my damn house. I don't want nobody in my damn house. You know, I pay the bills here. I don't know why he acts such like an ass. You know what I'm trying to say? Ass. But he didn't want me and my mother to have a close relationship. And, you know, because I've been through a lot as well, I wasn't in my right state of mind. Whereas I could have been like, yo, family, come help us. You know, like, why is he acting like this? But, you know, as a black person, we struggle a lot and we go through a lot of obstacles that sometimes we be going through so many obstacles that we don't be thinking right all the time. And my mom, you know, she only got 2 daughters. She don't have any sons. And here's this man who's bullying her. And she allowed it to happen. But I don't think it's that, you know, some women would think that when people is in domestic violence relationship that they just allow things like that to happen. They don't understand that domestic violence relationship is really a mental, it's also a mental thing. When a woman is inside of a domestic violence relationship, that's also very mental, but a lot of people don't realize that it's a mental thing that's going on, and they be like, why you just staying there? Why you just don't leave? You know, I understand my mother. At first, I didn't understand her. And I used to be very mad at her because she would never let me in her house. And a lot of times, when I was homeless, it would have been great to come to my mother's house and take a shower or be able to go into her refrigerator or her kitchen and cook. When I come to my mother's house, I felt like a guest, a stranger. I couldn't even go into her kitchen, you know, and open up her fridge. You know, Mom, I'm going to make me something to eat. This man, I'm telling you, he was something else. He used to be sitting there watching everything, and, you know, he wasn't good at all. But anyway, as I was saying, I'd be standing at the door, and my mother came down the steps like this, and I'm taking her out for her birthday. And what happened is, well, she got sicker. And, you know, sometimes I think that her sickness could have been prevented. You know, I believe sometimes that black people, that our culture pass away immaturely. But I mean, like, you didn't have to die. I felt, when I'm looking at the situation now, I feel my mother she didn't have to die. She died because her husband would not allow, especially me, to come into her home to help take care of her, like to rotate her, to feed her. Because when my mom became bedridden, I couldn't come in the house. But my mother did offer me to come in the house, but I was afraid to come in the house because when I came in the house, I got attacked by him, brutally attacked. And I don't think he was worth for me going to jail, because if I would have came in the house, I wasn't going to let him hurt me like how he hurt me before. It wasn't going to go down like that. And then I had to really think, Geraldine, you're going to kill him. You could kill him or he can kill you. But let's think about Geraldine. If you kill him, you know you're going to jail. Ain't going to be no self-defense. He's dead. Girl, you killed him and you going to jail. You know, I just like to talk more on domestic violence situations, because I think the United States should change when somebody get killed. Because what I mean by I think the United States should change if I would have killed him. What I'm trying to say to you is that here's a man who's breaking up family. My mom don't have no pictures in the house of me. There's no pictures. And I used to be a very photogenic teenager. She has no pictures of me. She has nothing in her house to show that she had a daughter named Geraldine. She has another picture. She has pictures of my sister. But me, ask the family member. When they come in the house, there's nothing here of me. You know, I really wish that I didn't have so much on my plate when my mother was alive. So I could have, been thinking about, like, Mom, let's look at that. Like, family, let's look at that. There's no pictures of me in the house. Don't y'all see something wrong with that issue? But, I feel the United States should change when it comes down to killing somebody in self-defense. Because if I would have came in this house to help my mother, who is dead, but, she maybe couldn't have been dead if I would have came in the house to help her, rotate her, feed her, because my mother was getting because when you don't move, when you're not active, you get constipated. And my mom was getting constipated on a regular, when she go to the doctors, they was actually going in her anus to pull out the feces. And I said, when I found that out, because that was happening on a regular one, when I found that out, I said, listen, mother, I think you should drink more water. So when she was in these nursing homes and the hospital, but when you leave the hospital, they don't keep you but so long. And when you go to the nursing home, that's when you stay the most time or whatever. And when my mom was in the nursing home, when she was in the hospital, when she was in the nursing home, I always brought her water. I always brought her fresh fruits, and it did wonders in helping my mother move her bowels when she was bedridden. So I want to tell you, if you bedridden, if you're in a wheelchair, if you're not walking as much as you're supposed to, I'm going to tell you, and I'm not kidding you, what really worked for my mother. If it worked for my mother, it's going to work for you. I always bought her a bottle of water. I always bought my mother fresh fruits. Either it was berries, blueberries. What else I used to buy her? Berries, blueberries. Occasionally I bought strawberry, grapes. I bought her grapes. And I started giving my mother chia pudding. You ever heard about that? Chia pudding? Well, it's like coconut pudding with chia seeds inside of it. And the benefits of chia seeds, you need to look up the benefits of chia seeds. You'll be astounded to find out all the benefits of chia seeds. And I believe the chia seeds benefits was helping my mother, a person who's not active, who's not walking. Well, when my mother let it out in one nursing home, the door was closed, and I'm not going to lie, you smelled it all the way out behind the closed door. My mother told me, Geraldine, I don't want to eat no more of that stuff, because she moved her bowels like about 3 times. And she was like, oh no, Geraldine, and it stunk so bad. But I said, Mother, that was very good that you moved your bowels like that, because whatever was inside needed to come out. Because I really don't understand how my mom gets so sick. And then she got so contracted. When I mean contracted, her fists was like this. And you know what I did to uncontract my mother's fist? Her nails was going into her skin. Her ring finger, the finger was so big that it like the ring was about to pop off my mother's finger. This man, if he would have allowed me to come in the house and help my mother, I believe my mother would still be here. I really do believe that, because when I helped her to go to the bathroom on her own, meaning no more people was going up in her anus. No one was going to her anus, pulling out the feces. It was coming out on her own. And yes, by me regularly doing range of movement on my mother in the nursing home, I'm putting all of you on blast. The nursing homes my mother been into, Bushwick Rehabilitating Center on Sheffield, Concord Nursing Home, and Downtown Nursing Rehabilitating Center. They did not do range of motions on my mother. It was me who was moving my mother's hand up and down, and pulling and open the fingers, stretch my, open, close, open. Move around. I was doing the range of motion on my mother on a regular basis every day. And not only was I doing range of motion on her, I was also massaging my mom for moving the oxygen and blood in her body so she can be limber, so she can move. Now, I'm not gonna lie, these nursing facilities my mother went to, they had like nice equipment, rehabilitation center. And they really did help my mother, like pick things up, move it over here, do all kind of like things for her to not be contracted. But they didn't do range of motions on her. And that's what I say, shame on you, nursing home. They should have did more range of motion, especially on my mother who was a bedridden person, because she can't walk. So she just lays in the bed. And you need to do range of motions, or those joints, everything could get contracted. So what I'm just trying to say is, if I would have came in the house to help my mother, this man would have tried to hurt me, because he already hurt me. He beat me in the head with a video camcorder. One time I was in my mother's house when my children was very young, and I was braiding my daughter's hair. He came out the blue, and I didn't even see him. It was my daughter who saved my life. My daughter, I think she was about 7 years old or 8. She was the one who saved my life, because I was braiding my other little daughter hair, and he comes from out the blue from the back with an iron, and he swung. And it was I didn't even know he was swinging nothing. I was just busy braiding my daughter's hair. And I had my head down, how you braid hair, and she down, and I'm braiding her hair. And I heard my oldest daughter jump up and say, "No!" And I didn't even know he swung the iron. Let me tell you something. He swung it with the point too. You know how the iron got the little point? Because my daughter had a dent in her hand. And she blocked she took her little hand and she saved her mother's life. He was swinging up. He swung a real iron. I didn't even see him coming with the iron. And when I saw the iron, it sort of print in my mother's hand, and he didn't hit me. And I guess my whole family jumped up, like my children. What you do that for? Don't do that. And my mother, and I'm shocked that and he mumbling something. My damn house. And I think me and my kids, we left. We left after that. But I should have looked at it a little bit more closely. But I was having issues with my own self with my children, my small kids. Their father is Jamaican, and that man, he was sending everything but the kitchen. He sent the kitchen sink to Jamaica, and he wasn't uplifting me. So I got tired of, so I was going through my things with him, living with, I never knew anything about foreigners. And I didn't know they, both of these men, my mother man and my two last kids, their father are Jamaican, Caribbean men. I didn't know. I looked at them both as being black men, because we both black in skin, melanated in skin. But you know what? The mentality is so different from Americans. I'm sorry, I'm telling y'all. The mentality of the Caribbean black men, or maybe even African men, is so different from American people. I said it. Don't get offended. I just said it. So, I said it. Because what I was going through with my kid's father and what my mom was going through with her husband, it wasn't like what we were going through with American boys. Now, my oldest daughter, her father is American. And, I grew up around all Americans because I'm American myself. Came from projects and all that. With them, we argue, fight. They don't have money. That's one thing, because they wasn't working. Back then, it's very hard for black men to have jobs, Like I said, it's a different aura now. So you better be lucky that you're not living in that aura. It was very hard. So most of the guys was hustlers. They try to make money by hustling when they couldn't get jobs or whatever. And It was a whole new different world. But my kid's father and this man, you know, they was different in a way of like their mentality, like how they think. Like, you know, like my kid's father, he was so mind driven, was sending everything to Jamaica. Every time he got a paycheck, he didn't even look out for himself to me. You know, but he wasn't looking out for me and my kids. I know that, and our kids. But he was sending everything to Jamaica. Let me see what else. They just different. They just think different. With my mother husband, you see, I don't want to even call his name. I know his name, but I don't even call his name. I don't even care anymore. My mother husband, he was just mean. He just didn't want me around. He just didn't want me around my mother. And one time I had bought flowers when my mom was sick, when she was upstairs. Because, you know, my mother have a duplex home. And so right now I'm downstairs in the front part of the house, like where the living room is at and stuff. And upstairs, where my mother's bedroom is at, she was upstairs in the bedroom. And my niece was being her home attendant at the time. And my niece was, you know what? I don't understand why he threw away the flowers you bought your mother. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, my niece feel or claim like that's the first time she really saw his ugly side. But I feel like this, my whole family should have been seen this man's ugly side. Maybe my mother, their grandmother would still be here today if we all would have got together and said, look, stop your crap, man. Stop it. And showed. But my mother, she always backed up and went with him. You know, she did that. She did do that a lot too. But we should have realized that she doing that because she's in a domestic violence situation and mentally she just ain't thinking right. And as family, we supposed to have been like, no, let's help her. But my family wasn't like that because we all struggling as black people. It's like white America and immigrant America have it all. But when it comes to black Afro-Americans, like the blacks who didn't have to travel into the United States because we already been here, because we descendants of slaves, we think different because we always got to struggle and we never get nowhere. You always go to school, get an education, and you still can't find a job. Man, you can't find a job as a black American. And I used to always think that it was white people's fault. But now I realize, I'm much older now, it's not only white people's fault. You got more than white people living in this world. You got Jews, you got Italians, you got immigrants, you got foreigners who's coming from another country, coming into New York, and they taking a job. So when a real American like me come up and give an application, I'm thinking, you know what? Y'all throwing my application in the garbage. Because ain't no way in the world I can never get a job. And ain't nowhere in the world, the majority of black people from my side of the town, from culture, from this culture, don't have jobs. We don't own no homes. We don't have any cars. I'm talking about anybody can have a job at McDonald's, but I'm talking about jobs that really give you money to uplift your life with prosperity. So it seems like my kid's father, the Jamaican man, and my mother husband was more like that, to see us stay down and not uplift us up, but they uplift their self and what they love, their country and their people. But my mother, I was telling my mother, look, you know, that's what he's doing, because I noticed that from my kid's father. But my mother, she didn't really see it. She didn't see it until one day he brought in his niece and didn't tell my mother. And he was letting he tried to make his niece live here past a month, where my mother had a hard time. Or if my mother would have spoke on it, you know, the courts would have gave them a hard time. You just can't kick nobody out after a month. Now here it is, my mother not really walking. This was before she really got bedridden. She not really walking, but he gonna bring his niece to live here. My mother was like, yo, Geraldine, I don't know what's going on with, I'm going to say his name. But you know what? He been doing all this shopping, buying all this stuff in the house. I said, so Ma, he buying stuff in the house. What you mean? You don't know why he buying? He not taking me shopping. He just bringing the stuff to the house. I said, well, why he doing all that? I don't know. Then we found out his niece came here. I said, Ma, you didn't know the niece was coming? No, he didn't tell me the niece was coming over. Well, Ma, how long she been there? Well, she been here 3 weeks. I said, Ma, she making another week. You know it's going to be hard to kick her out, right? And my mother thought about it. And she got into it with this man, her husband. And then the husband tried to be slick. He brought some pastor up in the house from some church. And my mother, it was the most funniest thing. She was cursing, and my mother stood up to him. And she was cursing, I want this out my house today. And he was like, this is my damn house. I don't have to put nobody. And the pastor and the church members that came to the house was like, please stop the cursing. They was cursing each other out in front of the pastor. If some pastors they brought here trying to do some religious service, you know, but my mother was like, you kick the itch back out now, you know, and make a long story short, my mother called the cops, and that's how she got out of here. And I was right. I said, Mom, that lady probably don't have nowhere to go because she just had a hip surgery. What she gonna come in your house for? And you know, I was right because we found out. My mother called me, you know what, Geraldine, you was right. She ain't even in New York no more. She went back to her country. But unfortunately, you know, she went back to her country. So you see what I'm trying to say about these kind of men here? They look out for self and theirs. So here my mother's husband is living with her. He came into our life. I was only 15 years old. He came living in my mother and father apartment when my mother and father split up. He came living in our apartment. I wish I was a 15-year-old girl who would have said, kick him out. If I knew he was going to grow up and not grow up, if I knew when I grew up and he was still with my mother and my mother bought a house, that he was going to turn into this person who was like, I don't want her in my house. I wish, you know what, if I knew he was going to turn out like that when I was 15 years old, I would have been telling my mother, kick his butt out. I would have been making such a racket to get him kicked out if I knew he was going to be the way how he, over the years, turned out to be towards me and my family. My mother is my family. My mother is my family. And like it or not, I'm her family. And you know what? He didn't respect that at all. And that's one thing that I noticed about Caribbean men. And I'm sorry, because I'm going from my own experience. With my kid's father, who's Jamaican, he didn't care about me and our kids. He didn't care about me and my family compared to how he cared about the family in Jamaica. Because every time you turn around, everything was going to Jamaica. And the same thing with my mother's husband. Once he got a home, he was like, I don't want nobody coming up in here. I pay all the bills. Nobody can't even spend the night. Like, huh? Why you so selfish like that? But we didn't see all of that now. No, I'm going to say I didn't see all that. Because I'm not going to talk about my family. Because my family don't have nothing never to say about nothing. They always want to put me down. But you got to really realize, of course I'm going to be mad if somebody don't never let me in the house. Wouldn't you? Now just think about it. That's your mother. And your mother don't never let you in the house. Wouldn't you be upset about that? Wouldn't that hurt your feelings? Just know that everybody in the family, everybody can come, all her friends can come around her. And even my mother's friends knew me since I was a little girl. Because, you know, that's how we do. This is our community. We all grow up together. And they all up in my mother's house and don't see me in here. Nobody never say, where's Gerald? They probably say, where's Geraldine? But just to say it. But you don't never really care about me. Because that's still my mother. That's still my mother. And I'm still her family, like it or not. I never heard my mother friends or her family or my family speak up on me like that. And I think that man helped kill my mother. Because when she started coming down the steps on her behind, and I was at the door, and I'm talking to my mother, you know, I didn't see my mother dying, though. I didn't see her dying. She wasn't that sick. And I don't know nothing about Parkinson disease. But I feel that my mother, I felt he killed my mother. He probably gave her Parkinson disease. That's how I feel too. Because where do Parkinson disease come from? If it's so normal or the norm, how come a lot of black people back in the days didn't have it? Maybe now we all getting it because it's now the new thing. You know, that's how it is. Before, it was nothing about psychiatrists going to the psych for thinking or anything like that. But now it's all go to the psychiatrist. They even want the sports player to speak to the psychiatrist now. Now, it wasn't so much of kids being missing, you know. I remember that first boy that came on the milk cart and missing. It wasn't like that. So I think, where did Parkinson disease come from? I only seen the white people. I'm not gonna lie. I only seen the white people out in Manhattan. I didn't even know they had Parkinson's, but the Trimbles. But I learned from my mother about the Trimbles. I'm not disrespecting white people, but they do eat from a lot of people because they always going out because they got the money to go out like that. I just don't. I'm just saying, because the Parkinson disease been around, and a lot of people black have it. I grew up in a whole neighborhood full of black folks, and I showed you my whole family tree, how we all been living around here. I never knew nobody had no doggone Parkinson disease. They had sugar diabetes. That's the only thing I knew black people really have really seriously. Arthritis. No, that's what black people have all the time. Arthritis. And then maybe next comes sugar diabetes. So see, it's good to know about your past, because see, I may look a little young than what I really am, but I'm not young because I know my whole culture. I never seen nobody with Parkinson. My mother is the first in my family, the first on the whole block, the first in the whole community, the first in the black history that I know who had Parkinson's disease. And I know a lot of people who's black. So anyway, I think he gave her the Parkinson's disease. Because why he didn't want me to come in the house and cook for my mother. He always had to cook for her. But he didn't know how to cook though. My mother taught him how to cook. Cook American food. He ain't never... I come to my mother's door. I said, Ma, I smell good. Who cooking? She said, hey, me cooking this. He cooking. He never cooked none of his culture food. Everything he was doing was American. I said, Ma, don't you think you taught him how to cook more than you taught me how to cook? She didn't teach me how to cook anything. Like show me with her hands and do it. She actually showed him, or he watched her, and he just learned how to cook all American food. And then when she got sick, he didn't want nobody coming. He didn't want me coming in the house. He didn't want me coming in the house at all. He didn't want me in the house at all. And so when my mother got real sick and got contracted and stuff, and when she started going to the hospital and to the nursing homes, I started showing her how to eat right and stuff. Where they didn't no longer have to go in my mother's backside to pull out the feces. So just remember, you gotta have water. My mother was not a water, she drinks soda. You have to have water, people. Especially my black people. You got to have water regularly. And you got to eat fruits. And you got to eat vegetables. It will keep your flow going. It will keep the flow going. You won't be constipated. It will just flow out. You got to incorporate that in your diet. Not just an apple, grapes, especially them berries and raspberries. Them blackberries, you need that in your diet, and that will help you. Even if you elderly now, your mom in a nursing home or your dad, I'm telling you, bring them a bottle of water, bring them some nice vegetables, like I was saying, some fresh vegetables once a week. And let me tell you something: if your mother in the nursing home, go in the nursing home, go visit your parents. Don't leave them in the nursing home to be taken care of, because I was surprised to see none of those patients really get any visitors in the nursing home. And that's where my problem came in with the nursing home, because most of their patients don't get any visitors. So here it is, my mother in the nursing home, and they don't know my family history where I can't go in my mother's house. So I go every day to see my mother inside the nursing home, and I sit down and I spend time with my mother. I talk to her for like an hour or two or whatever. I'm always with my mother in the nursing home. I saw a lot of patients black up in there, don't have nobody come see them. So when the coronavirus came, the nursing home treated me. They treated me like they was mad because I was coming to see my mother. I couldn't even, it was so terrible. It was terrible. I understand that when the coronavirus came that, we are not supposed to be in contact. But the way how the nursing home did me and my mother was out. She was being ready to be discharged from the nursing home. She completely got healed. Like them bed sores really healed up. But she was coming home. They didn't even want you know what? Them nursing home act like your family is their personal possession. So Since the nursing home treated me so badly when the coronavirus came, I'm putting it out there. Go see your family in that nursing home. Don't let that nursing home, don't just take care of your family members like that, because they're not treating us right. Go see your family in the nursing home, please. I'm talking to all Americans, because those people that's running the nursing home is not American. Look, I can't get a job. I know a lot of people who can't get a job who's black. And just because I got 1 or 2 black people who got a job, oh, whippy-doo, because you got a job. You know how many people went in front of you who protest, who fought, who maybe lost their life so that you can have, and I hate to go there like that because we surpassed slavery, but you got to really deal with the black culture. You have to deal with slavery. You have to deal with that and acknowledge we wasn't being fair treated. So a lot of our people died, spoke up, like me right now, telling you to go to the nurse home, spoke up for your people. If you got a job, you got a nice job, I'm happy for you. But how many people in your family got nice jobs? So, what you saying? You the only one who went looking for a job, nobody else wanted to have a job? Please. You got to get real with yourself. We are be treated very unfairly. And I was treated very unfairly when my mom was in the nursing home. But I'm not going to talk no more about that. I just want to say that when I came into my mother's home before she died, and her husband, he went into the hospital. When my mother was in the nursing home, and when he didn't come see my mother that often inside the nursing home, but he did come, you know. And when he didn't come, like, I think 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, my mother was like, you know, where he at? So I went looking for him. When I knocked on the door, you know, I found out he wasn't here. I found out, make a long story short, he was in the hospital. And I told my mother, and my mother called at the hospital, and they found out he was in the hospital. But he then later passed away. So, not right, he passed away. And so my mother, she was still in the nursing home. And my mother was about to come out. And like I said, it was during the coronavirus, the hype of it. She was about to come out. And so what I did, my mother, she made me healthcare proxy. And that's one topic I'm going to talk to you all about. And about the paperwork you need for elder parents. You know, you got to really come into that show when I have it. But the point is, what I'm trying to say, when I came to my mother's house, oh my God, it was so dirty. I never seen but I've been in my mother's house a couple of times, but it never been dirty. You know, even though the man didn't want me in there, my mother had this home way over 20 years, so I've been in her house maybe 5, 6 times, you know, my whole life while they was living in the couple together. You know, so it was never really dirty. When I came, it was never dirty, period. When I came into my mother's house, oh my God, I was like, oh, it stank, and it was so dirty. It was so dirty that I can only get the bottom floor decent for my mother to come out from the hospital, come home, and have her hospital bed put back there. You know, so the hospital bed got put back there. I can only do the first floor. That's how dirty it was. Oh my God. What happened to her husband was that he took very sick in the house, and he'd been in the house for a while. And my mother, being that she was no longer walking, so she couldn't really clean anymore. You know, she couldn't clean the house up anymore like how she wanted to. And it was dirty. It was so dirty. And that's all I wanted to say. That my mother's house was dirty, that dirty. My mother's house was so dirty that it took, how many hours or days it took to clean the first floor. So you can come in decently, you know, so it can smell decent, you know, for her to come in. I just wanted to say, you know, if you got any family members and, you know, especially black, you got to stop the bickering, you know, because it's not cool. I don't like being by myself now, because before, at least I had my mom to call on the phone, but now it's like nobody. It's like our whole family is just like, And if you only get with that little tiny clicker you have, and that person can do it, you ain't gonna have nobody, you know. So you're not supposed to think like that. You know, it's the United States got everybody tight. But the United States needs to stop it, because the United States got to realize you're destroying families. They destroying my family. I'm telling you, my family got destroyed through the United States government and the court system. My mother, her family with me got destroyed through her husband, and he was an immigrant. He came from Montreal. And he came over here with his ugly self, and he destroyed me and my mom. He destroyed the relationship. And yes, my mother allowed it to a certain degree, but you know what? When you look at it, really, who gonna help her? You should see how they killed her in the hospital. Who gonna help her? You know, we gotta really look at domestic violence and black people. We really have an issue here in the United States. The United States don't really want us to be free. You think you're free? No, you're not. No, you're not. No. And I'll talk more about that anyway.
Hi. Well, it's another video that I created that ended abruptly. I want to say before I close out is that my mom's husband came from Montserrat. In the video, I said Montreal. I made a mistake. He actually came from Montserrat, the country of Montserrat. And you know what I heard about the country of Montserrat? That they have live volcanoes. Seriously, live volcanoes. And I didn't discover that way until my mom was getting sick. But anyway, I like to say I'm learning my videos. Thank you for coming in and checking out this video here. I know that you've seen a lot of videos me talking about my mom, but that's where I'm at right now. It's more to me than talking about my mother all the time. It's just that she died, and this is where I'm at, you know. And I'd like to say thank you for coming in, and could you please subscribe to my video? I really would appreciate it. I will appreciate if you can help me get 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time, because I like to get monetized. So thank you so much for that. And you know, thanks for stopping by. To the next video. Ciao.